When the Spanish soldiers first saw the city, they stopped walking. One of them, a soldier named Bernal Diaz del Castillo, later wrote that it seemed like an enchanted vision from the tales of Amadis, that the men around him literally asked each other if what they were seeing was a dream. They had sailed across an ocean expecting to find something primitive. Instead, they found one of the largest cities on Earth, larger than London and rivaling the greatest cities of Europe. A city of perhaps 200,000 people, built on reclaimed land in the middle of a lake, connected to the mainland by three raised causeways, supplied by aqueducts, and filled with canals where canoes moved like traffic through streets, painted pyramids, white palaces, markets drawing 60,000 visitors a day, gardens, aviaries, and zoos inside the palaces of the rulers. Its name was Tenochtitlan, Mexico Tenochtitlan, and within 2 years, it would be completely destroyed. This is the story most people think they know: Hernán Cortés and a few hundred Spaniards defeating the Aztec Empire. But almost everything about that version of the story is wrong. First, the people who built this city did not call themselves Aztecs. They called themselves the Mexica. Aztec is a name that came later. The Mexica were Nahuatl-speaking migrants who settled in the Valley of Mexico in the 1200s. According to their own tradition, they founded Tenochtitlan in 1325 after a prophecy. They were told to build their city where they found an eagle perched on a cactus eating a snake. They found it on a small island in Lake Texcoco, and they built. Through engineering that astonished the Spanish, the Mexica turned a lake island into a capital. They expanded it with chinampas, brought fresh water by aqueduct, controlled the lake with dikes, and connected the city to land with raised causeways and removable bridges. From that island, they built an empire. Conquered peoples paid tribute: food, textiles, gold, and soldiers. Every sack of tribute demanded, every warrior captured, every offering taken created another enemy, waiting for the day Tenochtitlan could be surrounded. Mexica warriors were ranked not by how many enemies they killed, but by how many they captured alive. Because in their world, capture meant more honor than killing. Elite warriors like the Eagle Warriors and the Jaguar Warriors wore dramatic animal-themed battle armor and carried macuahuitl, wooden weapons edged with razor-sharp obsidian blades, feared by the Spanish for the terrible wounds they could inflict on men and horses. Their religion was just as intense as their warfare. To the Mexica, blood was not only violence, it was payment. They believed the gods had sacrificed themselves to keep creation alive, and humans owed them a debt repaid in blood. Captives taken in war could be brought back to Tenochtitlan as offerings. To their enemies, the city was not only powerful, it was terrifying. Cortés arrived in 1519 with roughly 500 soldiers. He was welcomed peacefully by the Emperor Moctezuma II, but tensions escalated into violence. A massacre at a festival triggered a full revolt. And on the night of June 30th, 1520, the Spanish and their allies fled the city under a ferocious assault. The Spanish would remember it as La Noche Triste, the night of sorrows. But for the Mexica, it was proof the invaders could bleed. Men drowned in the canals. Gold dragged soldiers beneath the water. Horses, armor, weapons, and bodies vanished into the lake. For one night, it looked like the conquest had failed. But Cortés survived. And when he returned, he did not come back with only Spaniards. He came back with the enemies Tenochtitlan had created. But before that army arrived, another enemy had already entered the city: smallpox. Brought by Europeans against which the Mexica had no immunity, the disease struck Tenochtitlan in late 1520. It killed an estimated 40 to 50% of the population in months. It killed farmers. It killed warriors. It killed the new Emperor Cuitlahuac, who had ruled for only about 80 days before the disease took him. The city that had seemed unconquerable was being hollowed out from within. When Cortés returned in 1521, he brought warships. 13 armed brigantines, built in secret and assembled on Lake Texcoco, gave the attacking coalition control of the water. They destroyed the Chapultepec aqueduct, cutting off the city's fresh water supply. Then the siege began. And here is the part most people have never heard. The Spanish were less than 1% of the attacking force. The army surrounding Tenochtitlan, consisted of tens of thousands of indigenous warriors, possibly far more, peoples who had spent decades paying tribute to a city they despised, who had their own reasons to want it broken. The Mexica did not surrender. They adapted. They avoided open ground where Spanish horses were strongest. They fought from rooftops and inside narrow streets. They tied captured Spanish steel to poles and made new weapons from the blades of their enemies. They launched 400 war canoes against the brigantines on the lake. At one point, Cortés himself was nearly captured inside the city he was trying to destroy. His men had to fight their way in to pull him out. The last emperor of the Mexica was Cuauhtémoc. He inherited an empire already shattered by disease and siege, and still chose to fight. Even as famine forced the people of Tenochtitlan to eat leather and wood, he refused to surrender. He led the defense street by street, building by building, until the city could no longer stand. By the end, Tenochtitlan was no longer fighting for victory. It was fighting to exist. On August 13, 1521, Cuauhtémoc was captured while trying to escape across the lake by canoe. The city fell. What followed was not preservation. Tenochtitlan was systematically destroyed. Its temples were demolished. Its stones were pulled from buildings and used in Spanish colonial construction. Its canals were filled. The sacred center of the Mexico world was rebuilt as the capital of New Spain. That city is now called Mexico City. 22 million people live there today. Underneath their streets, their plazas, and their cathedrals, the ruins of Tenochtitlan are still being uncovered. Archaeologists are still finding what was buried. The empire fell, but the city never entirely disappeared.